Hello everyone, this is Mr. Navratil here. In this video we're going to be taking a look at how to create the laser cut bookmark. You're going to be utilizing your Chromebook as well as the CTIL laptops in the lab. First off, we're going to be finding ourselves on Onshape. Onshape can be accessed through ClassLink. Please make sure that you are logging in with your school Gmail account. Once you get to the dashboard on Onshape, we're going to go ahead and hit Create in the top left and then Document. We're going to name this Bookmark Design, and then we'll go ahead and hit create. So what we're doing in Onshape here is just creating the outline so the laser cutter knows where to cut the bookmark out. We're going to be doing the bulk of the designing with the images actually in Inkscape. So in Onshape here, we're going to go ahead and start by hitting sketch, and then it's asking which plane we'd like to sketch on. We usually start with the front plane here. I'm going to go ahead and change my view to front. And again, we're just creating the outline of the bookmark. So I'll start with the rectangle tool. I can click on the center here and up and click again. Now, as always, we're going to be using the dimension tool to make this perfect. Dimension tool is here, two little arrows. I'm going to click on dimension, and I'm going to click on the top line here and then up. This dimension is going to be 2 inches. If we zoom out a little bit with our mouse wheel and we press the mouse wheel down, we can kind of pan this so we can see it better. And for the height of our bookmark, we're going to click, and this dimension is going to be 6. So this is the general outline. We are going to kind of round over the corners, and we also need to create a hole for the tassel to get attached to. So I'll go ahead and hit the circle tool, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to kind of draw it kind of where it needs to go. We're going to be using the dimension tool to make it perfect. So I'll hit the dimension tool. Now we do want this to be centered in between here and here. So if we take 2 and we split it in half, we're going to end up with 1. So if I click on the outside and then I go ahead and hit the center of the circle and I come up and out, so that's 3 clicks, I'm going to hit 1 and then enter, and that will center it for us. We also need to tell the program how big the circle needs to be. So if I click on the circle itself and come out, we're actually going to change this to 0.25. And then finally, we do need to tell the program what is the distance between the center of the circle and the top of the bookmark. So if I click on the center of the circle and I click on the top of the bookmark and I come out, that is also going to be 0.25. So that's kind of the general outline. The only thing that we're missing is the rounded corners. So in this instance, we're going to be using the sketch fillet tool. It's this little round thing right here. We're going to click on that. If I click on the top line and the side line, by default, it might be set to something quite different. So yours might say 0.5 or 0.125. We are actually going to use 0.25. So if I click somewhere to confirm, I can type in whatever I want. We're actually going to keep it at 0.25. Now I'm going to go ahead and do that for the rest of the pieces here. So I'm going to click on the top line and the side line again, click to confirm, enter. I'll click on this line and the bottom line, click to confirm, enter, and then finally the bottom line to the side line here, click to confirm and enter. So this is the general framework. This is what we're going to ask the laser cutter to actually cut out of the piece of wood. So at this point, I am all set. I can go ahead and hit the check mark. Now we do need to bring this over as a DXF file into Inkscape. So to do that, as always, we're going to go ahead and hit right click on the sketch that we did. We're going to come down to where it says export as DXF, and we're going to have some options here. Now, if yours is still set by default to DWG, please be very careful that you make sure that this says DXF, otherwise it won't work. And we're going to go ahead and change the name of this DXF to Bookmark Design, and then we'll hit export. Now that that file is in your downloads folder, we can go ahead and move on over to Inkscape. If you're already on a CTIL laptop, that's fine. You can just open Inkscape from there. If you're on your Chromebook, you are going to have to grab one of the CTIL laptops and open it up and log in. Now that we have Inkscape open, we're ready to go ahead and start our bookmark design. If you can't find Inkscape on the CTIL laptop, you can just come down to the search bar down here and go ahead and type in Inkscape, and it should open for you there. The program might ask you a couple questions in the beginning, and you can just hit got it and save, and then hit finally new document, and you should end up with something that looks like this. Our first step is to bring in the outline that we created in Onshape. So we're going to go ahead and hit File, and then we're going to come down and hit Import. Now, underneath our Downloads folder, you should be able to find your DXF file that you downloaded. We're going to go ahead and hit Open, and we're going to make sure that this says Read from File here, and we'll hit OK. We're going to hit OK once more, and there is the outline for our bookmark. Now in Inkscape, if you want to zoom in and out, instead of just using the mouse wheel like we do in Onshape, if you hold Control on your keyboard, it will allow you to do that so we can kind of get a better view. And as always, if you use the mouse wheel as a button, you can kind of pan around. Now, our first step here is to make sure that the laser cutter is going to be able to identify this as something that vectors. In other words, it's going to cut it out. So we're going to click and drag over the entire design here. And then we're going to go up to where it says Object, and then we're going to hit Fill and Stroke. From here, in the Options panel, we are going to make sure we're on Fill, and we're going to click this little X button. And that means that the lines are not actually going to be filled in. Next, we're going to hit Stroke Paint, and you're going to go ahead and hit this little solid box. And from here, it's a little confusing, but we're going to click and drag on this scale until it says 255 for red. And finally, you're going to go ahead and hit Stroke Style. If this is in a different unit, we need to click and we need to scroll up until we find inches. We're going to click and drag over the measurement, and we're going to click 0.001, and then we're going to go ahead and hit Enter. Now again, this is making sure the laser cutter identifies this as something to be cut out. We've made this line so thin that it is almost invisible if we zoom out. So I'm going to hold Control and zoom out a little bit just to show you. If you zoom out enough, it almost looks like it kind of disappeared. But if you zoom in close enough to it, you should be able to see where your bookmark still is. So from this point, we're going to go ahead and take a look at some images and add in the design work for the bookmark. Now that we have our outline ready, we are officially starting the design process for our bookmark. When it comes to designing, you can add in any images you want, as many images as you want, as well as whatever text that you'd like. I want to add in the Dr. Seuss quote from the example that I had shown you. So underneath Google Images, I just typed in Dr. Seuss quote. You do need to be careful about kind of what images you're trying to bring in. Some of them are going to be much better than others. So if I use something like this, the background would be kind of a little stark towards the text, and the laser cutter might not pick that up as well. You can obviously experiment with this as much as you want. I'm going to go ahead and hit this quote. This is the one that I used in the example. If I right click on it and I hit Save Image As, we can throw that into our desktop, or the downloads folder rather, and hit save. Now, once it goes in, you might notice that this is a WEBP file. This is not going to work for Inkscape. This type of file extension just doesn't work and won't allow us to import that. So we have a couple different options here. We could go to Google and type in WBPP to PNG, and you could upload the file and convert it that way. There is a simpler way, actually. If you go ahead and take just a screenshot of this picture, we can automatically make it a PNG. So there is a poster in the classroom about how to make a screenshot on my laptops, or you can come down to the search bar and type in the snipping tool. This is the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and hit New, and if you're very careful, you can click and drag over just the image itself, trying not to get anything else in the background. So that looks pretty good to me. If I hit File, Save As, I can also throw that in my Downloads folder. Now, sometimes you might have a background that you would like to get rid of outside of the text. This is actually done very, very easily online. So I am going to remove the background and make this a native PNG. To do that, you go to Google and you type in remove background. And this first website here, remove.bg, is where you're going to want to find yourself. This website is very, very useful for other things outside of creating the bookmark in the lab, but we're going to hit upload image, and you're going to find the picture that you created in your downloads folder and hit open. And if you just wait a minute, it will remove the background for you. Once that's completed, you can hit download and you'll have a new picture in your downloads folder that's going to say remove BG preview. From here, we can go back to Inkscape, and what we're going to want to do is take that picture and put it into our design. So we're going to come up and we're going to hit File. You're going to click on Import and make sure that you select the image that you had the background removed, and you're going to hit Open. Once you hit OK, it should come into our design. Once the image has been imported into the program, you'll notice that you can kind of click and drag wherever you'd like. Obviously, this is way too large for our bookmark design. So if I click and drag on this corner here, we can go ahead and make it whatever size we want. Now, before you do that, I'm going to go ahead and hit Edit, Undo. You might want to come up and click on this little lock button before you do that. So if you notice, what happened there was I was changing the scale in both directions. So this is going to kind of make your image look kind of wonky. If you first hit this little lock button, it will keep the aspect ratio intact. So if I do that, I only have a choice to make it kind of scale both ways at the same time. So I'm just going to make this big enough to fit in the bookmark about there. And from this point, the only thing I'm missing is some text in the bottom. Again, you can add in as many images as you want, different images. You can add in text from the internet, but I'm going to show you how to add in text from the actual Inkscape program. So I'm going to go ahead and write my last name on the bottom here. By doing that, I'm going to click on this little A. This is our text tool. And if I just click anywhere, it's going to go ahead and start typing in. From here, I'm going to type in my last name. Now, this isn't necessarily the font that I want, and obviously not the right place, but let's take a look at the font first. If I click and drag over the text, I should be able to come up here and choose from a plethora of different fonts that we have available in the program. So that looks pretty cool. I do want something a little bold. Actually, that seems like it fits with the other thing pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and go with this text. Now, again, this isn't in the right place, and it's also not the right size. So I'm going to click on the arrow in the top left, and this is going to let me click and drag where I want this to go. The lock button is already on, so it should be able to keep our aspect ratio in. If you simply come up while it's selected and hit either of these arrows, you should be able to turn it to a 90-degree angle. So if I click on this one, that seems like it's going to be the correct way to go. I can click and drag this wherever it is that I like. Now, if you'd like the aspect ratio to come off a little bit, we can unlock this, and we can go ahead and make this kind of a little bit bigger that way to center it out in the bookmark. Now, make sure that you are trying to center up everything where you want it on the bookmark. So if I click on this, I can move it up just a little bit. Wherever it is in this program is exactly where it's going to engrave on the laser cutter in correspondence to the vectoring red on the outside. So this looks pretty good. I think I'm all set. At this point, if you have completed the design, we're going to come up and we're going to hit File, and then you're going to hit Save As. You can throw this into your downloads folder. Let's see here, downloads, and then you're going to probably want to write your first and last name. And make sure it says SVG right here, and then we're going to go ahead and hit Save. Once you have done that, you're going to go ahead and take that SVG file. You're going to find yourself on the appropriate Google Classroom. You have a couple different options. You can go ahead and just put it underneath the laser cuts in the design uploads, or you can put it underneath the Bookmark Design Google Classroom assignment. Once you've completed that, you're ready to go into the Maker Room and laser cut it out.
When you are all set and your design has been uploaded to Google Classroom, the first thing that we're going to do is come into the Maker Room and we're going to go ahead and hit this Start button. This starts the exhaust system for the laser cutters, and they will not run unless this is on. Once you have turned on the exhaust, we're going to find ourselves on the Maker Station in the Maker Room. Once you are in the Maker Room and you're on the Maker Station, we're going to go ahead and find ourselves on the Google Classroom that you are attached to. The permanent Google Classroom is the CTIL. You might just be attached to one of your periods, the specific period that you have, the Clean Tech Lab. Once you open that up, you can go to Classwork, and then you're going to find wherever it is that you uploaded your design. It could be underneath laser cuts for the design uploads, or it could be underneath the bookmark design, underneath Onshape. It doesn't really matter. Wherever it is that you have your file, you're going to go ahead and click on it, and then we're going to click the download button. Once it has downloaded, you are not going to open it from here, from the downloads folder. Instead, you're going to find yourself on the desktop. This is where we have two files, two very important files. One is for cutting out of the acrylic plastic, and the other is for cutting out of plywood. So for this particular instance, we're going to want to open the plywood template. Now, this icon might look a little bit different. It might be in a different location, but as long as it says plywood template, you should be good to go. So I'm going to double click and I'm going to open that in Inkscape. This is just representing basically a 12 by 12 inch piece of plywood. So wherever we put our bookmark, that's kind of where it's going to get laser cut. From this section, we are going to hit File, and then you're going to come down to Import. You are going to find in the Downloads folder, if this doesn't say Downloads, you can click and make sure that you have that selected underneath Downloads. You're going to find your file that you just downloaded. So Bookmark Design is mine. I'm going to hit Open. We're going to hit OK. And the thing that we need to make sure that we are doing now is placing this kind of in the top left here. Make sure that you select the entire thing before you do that. Once you are all set, you can go ahead and hit File and then Print. And this will end up bringing you to the laser cutter. So we're going to hit Epilogue Engraver here, and we're going to hit Print. Once you hit Print, in the bottom here, this little blue E might start flashing yellow, and that's where it has been sent to. So we can go ahead and hit the E here, and it will show up. Now, one of the issues, unfortunately, there is a bug that sometimes when this document comes in, it does not come in at the full 12 by 12. So to fix this, if we just go back to our Inkscape document where your bookmark is, and you just hit Control P once again, or File Print, go to the Epilogue Engraver here and hit Print. That should fix that bug for us. There we go, it's coming in at 12 by 12. The next step is to come over to our scrap plywood bin, and we're going to go ahead and find just a piece that's big enough so that we can laser the bookmark out of it. There's plenty of choices in here. Any piece will do. Once you have that out, we're going to insert it into the laser cutter. To do that, all you need to do is carefully open this lid on the top. If there is somebody else's project inside of here, we need to take it out carefully without hitting the nozzle. You can take any excess pieces that are big enough for something else. We'll put that back in the scrap plywood bin here. If somebody else's project is laser cut and it's in the machine, you need to take it, find yourself here where it says completed laser cuts, and make sure that that gets put into the bin for the next person so that they don't end up losing it. We're back over at the laser cutter. I'm going to go ahead and take the piece that I selected. We need to place it very, very carefully in the top corner of the laser cutter. It needs to go all the way in the corner without hitting this nozzle here, as that nozzle is very, very delicate. Once you've placed it appropriately, you do need to make sure that you close the lid very carefully and slowly. And now we're all set to send the file to the laser cutter. Now that our wood has been placed into the laser cutter, we have our design ready to go. Sometimes you might need to click and drag your design so that it actually is going to fit where you want it to laser. I usually like to put it kind of all the way in the top left or top right so that we're not wasting any other wood. We might be able to actually fit like 4 bookmarks on this one piece. From here, you need to make sure that you're setting your correct process settings. So first off, our autofocus. Whenever we're doing plywood, we need to click on this to make sure that it says plunger. For the engrave portion of this, which again is not cutting out the actual shape, we want to change the settings so that the speed is going to be 25 and the power is going to be 100. And this is for engraving. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and click so that this minimizes again. We're going to go down to vector. Now again, this is where we're cutting the entirety of the way through the piece of wood so it cuts out. Process type is vector. For this, we want our speed to be 5 and we want our power to be 95. Those are the two settings. Once you've done all of that, autofocus is plunger, engrave is 25, 100, vector is 5 and 95. You can go ahead and hit print and it will send it to the laser cutter. Once you've hit print, pay attention to which laser that you sent it to, but you can see now that it has a file ready for us to laser cut. Once you see your file, the next thing we have to do is just click this play button right here, and the laser will start. Depending on the complexity of your design, some might take a lot longer than others, but the laser cutter will tell you exactly how long you have left remaining in your cut. Once the laser cutter has beeped, signifying that it has been completed and it's stopped moving, we can go ahead and open the lid. You don't have to worry about it being hot or anything, it kind of cools immediately. We're going to move it out of the way of the nozzle and remove your bookmark. And now we're on to the last final step. Once your bookmark is all set, you can go ahead and ask me for one of the bookmark tassels. I have a bunch of different colors in the lab here. So what you're going to do is simply take the tassel and we're going to put this loop through the hole on the top. It might take you just a little bit to kind of get it all the way through. Once your bookmark is all set, you can go ahead and ask me for one of the bookmark tassels. I have a bunch of different colors in the lab here. So what you're going to do is simply take the tassel and we're going to put this loop through the hole on the top. It might take you just a little bit to kind of get it all the way through. Once it's through the hole there, we're going to take this end and we're simply just going to put it through that loop, and basically it's just a simple way of kind of connecting it to the actual wooden bookmark. Might take you a second. Make sure that you get it all through, and at that point you have officially completed your laser cut bookmark.